Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. Rob Browne, Brenden Martin here with you. Got Coach Matt Dean in Memphis. Yep, the gavel. The judge is ruling. AD John Hartwell from ULM. Gary Harris, Tuscaloosa, checks in. Look, there was a developing story last night in the House versus NCAA. Looks like there's a possible settlement on the table. We'll talk to these smart guys. What does that mean to college athletics, the NIL, the future of everything? Smash subscribe button, bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on Android, iPhone. Tell friends, family, and neighbors. Get pen and paper handy. Hey,
let's go.
Watch us live or watch us later. Tell your friends. Durant Fleming watching today. Hello, over in the Ozarks. New viewer. I'm heading up there this weekend to go trout fishing.
I'm big in the Ozarks.
They're beautiful.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey, it is going to be a fun show today. Look, send in your comments. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or what have you, send in your comments and questions. I like those. They make
like
people
the video. Help us out.
Like
I mean, just do all the stuff, man.
Like and thumbs up and all that cool stuff. Matt Dean is in front of the Waterford Crystal cabinet there at Buckingham Palace with a straight face on right now. And Matt, John Hartwell is going to be on with us in just a few minutes. Rush hour traffic in Monroe, I guess, keeping him busy, but he's probably AD. You walk in the office with 17 sports. That's like having 17 kids multiplied. Coaches and everything else. Last night, that settlement was announced, possible or probable settlement, House versus NCAA, like $2.6 billion. And it's going to give the Power Four conferences weighed in on it. Now they got to go back to everybody else. That wasn't supposed to come until January. And the proposed settlement on that would have been $4.2 or $4.3 billion for the NCAA. What do you know about this case as of right now? And do you think the settlement was put on the table by the NCAA just to avoid Armageddon in January?
Hey, good morning, guys. Great to be on the show again. I know it's kind of we've been talking about this, but the reality is I'm really curious to John Hartwell's opinions. I don't want to miss his response, but I think like anything, it affects those schools more so than the Power Five schools because they're already sitting there with a pot of money. Yeah. And you think about it, if I'm a recruit, the rich get richer a little bit here, right? And then at the end of the day, a lot of those schools in the Group of Five, Power Four, whatever you want to call them, are struggling to make ends meet as it is. If you throw some more commitment their way, if they're not able to sustain it, Rob, what does that mean? I don't really know the answer because this is a whole different world.
I agree.
And quite frankly, I think it's more of a question towards that group than it is the Power Five. I mean, Power Five are going to do whatever it takes to make this work because they have to. They have no other option. And I also think it's the have and have-nots culture. We've talked about this. You say this is the NCAA restoring maybe some of their power, but I also still think those top 50 or 60 programs are going to have a lot to say about whatever goes to the next step.
I agree with that, but one thing is for sure. If money was the answer, Texas A&M would be stacking up national championship trophy. It's not. You got to have a commitment and you got to have the right people to make great things happen.
Well, yeah, but that's where coaching always matters.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees have won a lot of World Series throughout the year. They're the evil empire. They don't win every year. Okay. Matter of fact, when you look at it, there's some comparisons to Major League Baseball in revenue sharing when you look at models, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're a small market team and you get some revenue sharing, sometimes your fan base is not excited because you're not spending that money on active free agents. Now follow me here because I'm kind of taking a direct route. But then sometimes you have to exude patience. I look at the Kansas City Royals. 3 years ago, they were awful. Now, I believe they won the World Series in 2015. And this year, Bobby Wood Jr., who they drafted, and he knew he'd be a star. He is a mega star, and their young players are playing well, and they've sprinkled in some free agent pitching, and they went out and spent some money in the offseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at A&M's a great example. Look at the money they spent on Jimbo Fisher. Look at the rate of return on that. Okay. Quite frankly, to me, the most interesting thing that's happened this week, and you may have talked about it earlier this week, is this crazy case about the former Florida quarterback recruit
Yes.
and the booster. I mean, first of all, why someone would commit almost $14 million to an unknown entity?
Yeah.
I think that's ludicrous. And I think that's a bigger issue that has kind of purged all these things together. That rule that came out about NIL was never supposed to be an inducement. And we know that's ludicrous. That's all it is. And different state-by-state laws has proved it tricky for different institutions to navigate through those waters. And I don't know how someone just goes out and sues the head coach for almost $14 million. You know, Brenden, I'm sure your dad's on top of that, but I just it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a big story because I was personally involved with that story because we had just started but we were in the process of rebooting Gatorbait magazine to a digital. Well, you know, I had left another job to come over and start this process, and then everything explodes, and then here we are, you know, in the middle of this you know, NIL, transfer portal, all the things that we're dealing with now in college sports and everything else, and you know, and plus Gator sports, and you know what we're all going through. And I like literally have one of those text messages from like. You know, it's like, you know, the secret somebody from somebody, you know, that you get every so often in the media that says you know, so and so's got a long mustache and, you know, meet me at the side door, you know, and I don't put much credit into it, but nonetheless, this happened to be one of a credible source, and it happened to be doing with Rashada. And the long and the short of the whole thing, I was entree to a lot of things I still can't talk about.
Yeah.
And things that we found out about and covered at Gatorbait, and Franz Beard and myself and Kyle Curtis, now graduated intern with us. And we, you know, what this story really is about in a lot of ways is the beginning of something huge that is transformative, that we all know change takes time and it's not easy to do, right? So that's NIL. That's what we sort of had to entree through and sort of deal with it. So this was like the first big deal, right? Like if you thought about it, like this was November-ish, you know, we're of last year. So we had just started this whole process. So now it was all this big flex by billionaires. We had Hugh Hathcock involved. He's throwing money around. These players are now worth $13 million. The Rashada. Yeah. And then it comes down to, which we always knew, which was the signing bonus. Now you have all these entities involved, right? We have the secret old money from down the street. They used to get bag money, which is very real in the SEC. They were all very involved because now they're getting tapped, right? You know, but legally, right, in the open. So now that's sort of uncomfortable. So these people are sort of now, you know, getting involved with now what's this collective, which is now this other entity. Plus now you have the university, which they're not allowed to talk to the collective to say yay or nay about all this different kind of stuff. And this is sort of like enter Rashada, enter Hugh Hathcock, who is the kind of guy that says, I have all this money, but really didn't have the money, right? So when it came down to sign the deal, you know, which is the signing bonus, they didn't have the money, right? So this whole thing comes down to what we're going to find out, you know, is unfortunate because you just said, Matt, which is how do you police anything that was done at this particular juncture and this particular time of transforming this particular massive thing, right? Because impossible to say that Bill, now they're going to say Billy Napier's getting sued. Well, yeah, Billy Napier's getting sued because he's the representative of this whole sort of situation. So therefore, the head of the guy's going to get sued, but it's really not that big of a deal. Rashada wants his $1 million. Okay, that's easy. Is he going to get it? He was promised it. He was really promised about $300,000 in the signing bonus, and then nobody signed the deal, and he went to ASU and play or Arizona and cried soup and then didn't start and play very well anyway. So if he's the starting quarterback right now at the University of Georgia, we don't hear about any of this right now.
That's right.
And that's
so now,
correct.
And because he's not, and now he wants his money. I get it. I get that he feels that he was done wrong. The kid really wanted to play at Florida. He really wanted to be a Gator. He was very excited about it. And I said that, so I feel sad for him that way, but I also feel like this kid has overcome maybe something that he went from being the $13 million kid to playing at Arizona. So
Arizona State.
Yeah, ASU. Yeah. It's all, hey man, in Colorado, that stuff's all Arizona. Okay, it's just
Brenden,
it's just one hot ass state.
I do not feel sorry for this kid in the least. Screw him. And I'm gonna tell you what he's doing. He's a piece of he's being used is what he's being done. He's being used by some other people.
We don't
I
know,
think he
though.
is.
Here's that's our opinion, but we don't know exactly, because I'm just saying that this particular thing goes very deep.
Yes.
We're not done hearing about the rest of this, by the way, because every time everyone's like, well, this is going to go to bed. I tell them, told Rob, this is not done yet. And hopefully it is. As a Gator fan, I want it to be done. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just going to say, how many of these cases are nationwide, Brenden? Like this one we just heard about because there's going to be a suit. But there's got to be other cases where kids were promised a bonus, didn't get it, and left the portal to other institutions.
There are,
right?
Rob.
And is this going to start a trend where other kids are going to come out and sue institutions because they felt slighted just like this young man did?
I'll tell you.
Go on. I don't know.
Right now, and I tell you what, I've been saying this. We've been saying it on this show for a long time. I'm in the money world. I'm telling you, this is a bunch of BS. I like Dave Cody out in Bellingham, Washington, who I love. He's my mentor for TV. 35 years at Channel 7 in Austin. He's right. NIL is a mess. It's also a cluster buck. I'll just use that term. This kid, look, Cam Newton, I'll use this as evidence, Matt. Cam Newton, #1 draft pick the year after Sam Bradford got 4 years, $78 million as the #1 pick out of Oklahoma. The next year they changed it for rookies. Cam got 4 years, $22 million. Are you telling me with a straight face, under oath, with your hand on a stack of Bibles, I don't, $13 million. Florida's got that kind of money, but I can't imagine them. He's a 4-star recruit. But Tennessee signed Nico Iamaleava.
But it doesn't come from Florida.
No. Rashada's from California, like Concordia.
Yeah, but the $13 million didn't come from the university. The $13 million
it came from boosters. I'm saying
one booster.
The Florida fan base, boosters, whatever. Yeah. But
still, Hugh Hascock, yeah.
If you give that kind of money away, there's a big, your estate tax, your unified tax credit and all that stuff that's a bunch of money to give away. Right now, a couple can give $27.2 million away, estate tax free. So if they have a $50 million estate, the first 27.2 is estate tax free. I just can't imagine one guy saying I'm going to give $13 million. And I'm seeing from Mr. Van Der, Rob, that comment is so unfair. Remind me of Kurt Flood. I'm not sure what I said that was unfair. I just think Jaden Rashada is allowing himself to be used. And you're damn right I'll defend Florida. I'll defend every SEC school if I just believe that what is going on now is nobody has the balls to stand up to this stuff. And there's a lot of kids that are being promised money. I'm going to give you a swag here, and they're not getting it. Carl Reed was on Feinbaum's show the other day, and he said he's talked to a number of kids that went ahead and entered the NFL draft because they said, look, the NIL money we were promised, we didn't get. Now, there's two sides to every story. But you know what? Franz Beard said this last year. We're going to need some crash and burns to fix this. And the free market's already doing it. I can tell you, it's not old money that's supporting NIL. It's new money, people that want to feel important. And then it's people that are over-promising and under-delivering. Well, it's not sustainable, and it's all. This is a sign of the free market working.
Yeah, Matt, I won't take your point, but I think that's where we're sort of at. It's like, yeah, but this, and Joe Blackburn makes a good point here. Didn't Jaden Rashad already settle with UF like he already got paid? I believe there was. I can't answer accurately. I don't know what he got I think they gave him his bonus, and maybe it was $100,000. I don't know what he got. I can look that up really quick. It's a good point, but I think it's really important here that we do say that this particular thing with Rashada is really about, the fact that there was so much money thrown around and he was promised so much and he ended up with so little. And I think that's what the argument, I think they'll probably have a pretty good case, to be honest with you, because if we see sanctions now that come in from the NCAA against, say, because we haven't seen any of that come down yet, if or not, I think that could always get tagged onto a civil case like this, because this is what we're talking about. It's a lawsuit. Is that you guys understand that to be correct? This this is what this is. So yes, we'll see. There's a lot to prove, and it's a lot of money, and so
Well, in the young man's defense, okay, 4-star, 5-star, whatever. If someone gets in front of me and promises me a huge amount of money, and I see little, I mean, that's to people today, to any of us, I mean, that's going to be very conflicting. That's all I'm saying, and I think it's happening everywhere. That's what I'm saying.
If I had a chart I could show you on here, it would be a stock chart. You got a 4-star kid. Okay, I see one yesterday. Malik Autry, defensive lineman, Opelika High School, committed to Auburn a while back. He just got his 5th star yesterday. That's like a stock that you bought at 25 that has just jumped to 55, okay? Auburn's going to have to come up with more NIL money to ward off all the other schools. This is what's going to drive people insane. And Mr. Van Der, in defense of the young man, he didn't write the rules. He followed the rules. Personally, I don't think any money should be paid out to any child. Get the good free education and then soar. This is the problem. And it hasn't happened yet, but I've been right on this stuff about private equity and venture capital, getting involved in college athletics. It is coming. The next thing you're going to start seeing, and I really think this is going to happen. What about the pre-law student or the pre-med student on your campus who says, well, look, I want to be able to practice law. I'm only a sophomore in college. I'm a pre-med major in biology. I'd like to perform, surgeries, or I want to be paid now because I'm a really good student. I want, $600,000-800,000 right now. You wait till that starts. Wait till people start going, you used my picture on the front cover of the newspaper at the game. That's my likeness. Where's my check? Yeah. You watch, it's going to run to a union. That's what's going to happen. It's all going to run to a union. You start making them employees.
And they're going to run to, they're already talking about it now. I mean, we're going to see all that push, I think, now. But I wanted to get more about what happened at the House, the settlement. How do you think that the recent news that we were discussing earlier on the show and how this is going to affect, because it doesn't look like the NCAA, like you said, Rob, is going away. They're going to be around, and the House settlement, as far as Matt Dean, is how you see it from your lens, and how this is going to shape the game going forward. Go ahead, Rob.
I just say John like I said, something popped up. He's got a coach with on his contract. He's got to deal with Matt. You know what that's like. So he goes, I'm kind of busy right now. I'll try to be on if I can. But I'm just going to say, I love these comments from the listeners. I think Joe Blackburn, I think if Rashada wanted to get his money, get this money through court system, being at his 3rd school in 13 months isn't a great look. It was Miami, it was Florida, it was Arizona State, now it's Georgia. I just believe that fans what I want to know, nobody's telling us this, Matt. You move to a company and you get upfront money, you've typically got a 5-year contract.
Right.
If you leave 1 year in, you owe 80% of the money within 60 days.
Right.
Why are we not hearing, Matt Dean and Brenden, about ironclad contracts? These kids want to be treated like pros. Treat them like professionals. Everybody is coddling these kids and feeling sorry for them. Stop it. I don't feel sorry for anybody. I have empathy for people, but feeling sorry for someone doesn't help them. It only enables them to continue in their misery. Matt Dean, you want to respond? I mean, I'm not mad at you, but I'm just saying this is crazy.
I'm going to try to get back on point. And Brenden, I kind of varied. You know, I drove us into a Pandora's box. I apologize. But anyway.
Yeah. Demerit for you. We'll talk later.
Yes, we will. The thing
you can't do that to Rob. He's like squirrel.
Get the gun out.
Then we got a soapbox, and you know, there's a whole thing. So
the thing I think we're missing here, and that's why I think it's really early to make a lot of comments on this. I still think I want to hear where the college presidents lie on this issue. That's more important than the ADs. That's more important than anything involved. It's the college presidents, because I still think if the NCAA is pushing back on some things and those top 50 college presidents don't like what's on the table, they still can change the course of history and blow this thing up. Yeah. That's what I still think we're kind of missing here. I know the NCAA, new leadership, they're trying to do some things out here to slow this all down. I still think the college presidents are going to get together, and I still believe within 2 years we'll have a commissioner for college football, and we'll have a 4-quad, whatever you want to say, playoff system that will involve 50 to 60 schools. That is my belief. I could be deadly wrong, but I just don't think it's sustainable, because we're not going to have student athletes become employees of the school or the state. I don't see how you manage that across the board equitably when you have student athletes that play 21 sports at an institution. And we know that 1 or 2 of the institutions are really getting paid in terms of the sports. So I think there's so many things that are complex here.
What if we see like student agents, like representing athletes?
Could happen. I mean,
it could happen.
It probably is happening.
Why not? Yeah.
Probably. I mean, we probably have some guys in there, really smart students, like Rob Browne, who's 21 years old. He's talking to the starting quarterback. Even though the funny thing is now most classes are online, you don't see that kid in the classroom to have that conversation unless it's at a party, right, Rob?
Yeah, you're talking about the online stuff?
Yeah, I mean, most of the classroom going on right now is online for these student athletes.
Yeah, it is. And I really
don't have the classroom anymore. I mean, they're almost like just this mythical figure that you see every Saturday in the fall.
Yeah, and they don't need to be separated. They need to be integrated into the student body. And again, what we are seeing is a false narrative pushed that the student athletes are victims of these big universities who just make money off their backs. Look, a regular student's got to pay their own way through school. A football player or a student athlete, yeah, they bring value, but that university has hundreds of years of built up equity that they provide you and a platform to display your talents. So it's a mutually binding contract. And we did okay. The reason we're in this situation is the NCAA, when they were asked to provide long-term health care to student athletes, which would have been a great idea. Had they addressed it, we probably wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now.
Well, in fairness too, Rob, and I get the education argument, man. I work at a very good selective arts college.
Exactly.
But just because I'm a really good student and I'm going to class every day, I'm not putting 100,000 people in a stadium, dude.
I know that.
You know, this is not even apples and oranges. This is like apples to friggin' workout protein bars, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is so much different here, and we're finally getting to the point where there's more student athlete representation in terms of like at the high school level. People are talking to these kids at high school level. I promise you that the young man in Florida had some people that led him the wrong way. I mean, the Rashad that signed for it saying, you need to ask for this. You need to get this. And instead of being reasonable and getting a fair market value, but then like Brenden said earlier, this was like kind of groundbreaking. This is the start of all this NIL stuff when this came down. So no one really knew what was going on. Everybody's out there, hey, I want to be that booster that puts Florida over the top. So I'm going to make this promise to this kid. And then I don't follow up. And it's not the kid's fault necessarily. I'm not saying the kid was in the complete right here. It's not the kid's fault. And there was a great point by one of our listeners. You know, it didn't help him. He's been at 3 schools in 13 months. I'm not sure who said that. Doesn't help his case. I get it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to throw something at you. This is how you could do it. You take the amount of money each school does with their controller, their accounting department. You say, let's say University of Florida makes $100 million off of football, and the rest of sports combined makes $25 million. Well, do the football players receive that much larger percentage dividend than the people on the rowing team or lacrosse or softball? Here's what you can do. Companies, corporations pay out, they have stock options for high-ranking executives. They have lots of little perks that you get when you read the fine print. But I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes when you give people what they're asking for, it's not what they really wanted, okay? And that works in relationships or anything. Silence is deafening. Where we're going to go with this, I can see this happening. You look at an athletic budget at any of these Power 4 conference schools, they're $125 to $250 million a year. They're not running flush with cash, but you start paying a dividend. If the players want revenue sharing, but there's a year when your football program doesn't make as much money, you get less return. So that's the incentive. It's like a stock. When you report earnings, all right, if there's good earnings, you could raise the dividend. But a lot of financials back in 2008 and 2009 cut their dividends 80 and 90%. Wealthy people, I'm telling you, you've got 1 million shares of a stock at $40 a share, and suddenly that's down to $5 a share. Your dividends are cut dramatically. Wealthy people don't like touching their principal. They like to live off of earnings and dividends. Universities are not going to touch their endowments to pay this stuff. I could see, so if your football program's doing well, everybody gets more money. If not, you get less. Let's play that game. You play your game, we'll play our game. And then what about the fans? Do they get a share of the dividend? University's doing well. They're buying season tickets without the fans' money. How does any of this happen? And don't tell me these athletes are victims. I don't want to hear that. And I don't want to hear about the 20 people that are sucking off of them like parasites, trying to take every dime they've got. They don't care about them. They care about themselves. I'm concerned about the student athlete. Put the money in trust. Let's play games like that.
My final point on this is all these colleges, their board of trustees and their presidents, they are a vested interest to do the right thing for their individual institution.
Yes. Yeah.
So for all of us to agree on something like this, I mean, we're going down 5 different forks right now. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas you're tossing out, Rob.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how this gets to the table in a way that everyone feels equitable about the situation.
Yeah.
Especially the lower we get in the food chain.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. That's why it's a complete mess. I don't think any of us have the answer.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, Dean, you're a producer. And Rob's talent, just like my father's talent, and I'm a producer. For talents, like they're the great thinkers, big creative, like big picture guys. I'm more of like, okay, we got to get today, and how do we fix this next moment? What do we do with this year? What do we do right now? And what do we have this second? Because we have to work in sort of the now. All sides are obviously important, but when we're talking about, because we titled this show, what does the House settlement mean for the NIL, for the NCAA future, and for the SEC sports, or all of us? What does it mean? And I wanted to make sure we got that perspective before, we got too far down. Matt, so I'm just looking through the article, and I sort of reframe it. What does it mean? If we could more of answer in your perspective, how is it going to, affect college sports, the NIL, or are we still just one part of a bigger, obviously solution potentially or not? Are we to go the wrong direction?
So great points, Brenden. And I think for the larger group, it's really healthy because we're going to have an expanded playoff system. We're going to have more revenue. We're going to have so much excitement in December, Rob, when we're talking about who's the 12 teams. I think the thing that I would like to figure out is a plan for the John Hartwell ULMs of the world that are competing in that other conference. Can we get a TV deal for their playoff system that can get a contract where it produces more money for that group, which gives them some benefits and some hope? Because obviously they don't feel included in the fight. I know they have their playoff system, but honestly, we don't know about it. We don't watch those games. How can we negotiate a deal? Maybe Netflix is an option. I'm seeing where Netflix is now going to get involved with NFL football. I know the market at the higher level football is so competitive. I've been watching and reading a little bit about the fight going on between TNT and I believe NBC for the rights of TNT NBA, which is one of the best shows out there. I love it. With Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Jet Smith, and Ernie Johnson, who's just one of the best journalists I've ever seen. So how can we, that would be my question for John, Rob, when he gets back on the show the next week or whatever. What's the plan for that group of schools to create more revenue? Because the reality is some of those schools do it well, and they put people in the seats at football stadiums and basketball stadiums, whatever. But the reality is a lot of them do not. A lot of them struggle. Yeah. And I want to see a plan. I think that the Power Five are fine. How can we fix below to keep them sustainable in the future?
Yeah, and let me say this real quick. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee, having a boot sale, 25% off on all boots up through June 16th. They got over 7,000 pairs of boots in there. Duckheads, Filson, Barber, Old South, STS. I'm going to tell you what. They've got a 50% off rack, Rock Mount shirts. Check them out on our website right here on the QR code, hewlettandunn.com. They will ship anywhere. And also the Vitamin Shop, Oxford, Mississippi, and Olive Branch, Mississippi, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sundays. The Vitamin Shop, proud to have them as a sponsor. And let me say something. If you need car work done, anything on your automobile, car, truck, SUV, Matei's Garage on Black Road, right next to Folks Folly in East Memphis. Matei's Garage and Cordova Automotive, open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Gary Harris, we've been having a really robust discussion this morning about this Jaden Rashada case, what this means, and also last night, you being a True Grit journalist, this proposed settlement on House versus NCAA for like $2.6 billion or whatever. What does this mean to the future of NIL and all? And by the way, Matt, Derek Dooley took my idea. They're already talking about private equity for the schools outside of the Power Four conferences to have their own playoff. And Jackie Sherrill has talked about that for the last 2 years on this show. They're going to want it, and it's going to be just as important to them to have a national championship. And I'm with you. And I'm a capitalist. I want everybody to make money. I just don't think kids ought to be driving to practice in a Lamborghini. They need to be like students, and it'd be hard to be a coach when an 18-year-old, I don't know. That's just my opinion as a father of 4 kids and somebody who manages people's money for a living. You should put that money away and tell people you're a rodeo clown, man. Don't tell them you got money. Gary, how are you?
Hey, Rob. Good morning.
I'm a rodeo clown. Hey, what's going on in Tuscaloosa right now? I talked to Dr. Waller May Veterinary Clinic a long time Sunday. He said he's met Kalen DeBoer and Kalen DeBoer's wife. He said they're 2 of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And I said, yeah, they are. And I said, but, Gene Stallings' first year, he lost 3 in a row, and people forgot that he sounded like Coach Bryant, but he ended up coming back pretty damn good the next 6 years. But what's right going into the summer? Have you seen Kalen DeBoer? I know you had a chance to talk with him. I was talking to Jimmy last night for a long time. You had that. You mentioned it on the show. when Alabama was out at the Final Four, you had a sit down with Kalen DeBoer. But have you had a chance to talk to him again or seen him around town?
I have. He's been doing a lot of functions. He's been doing the speaking circuit pretty regularly with different, of course, obviously the Tied On Tour events through the Yale Alabama Collective and had one in Birmingham the other night, but also, golf tournaments and other speaking engagements. So he's been highly visible. And, I agree with what you've heard. I think he's an exceptional person. That's my, take on him, and that he's a really good guy and a family guy and a good football coach. But like you said, I mean, it's going to, a lot of it's going to depend his popularity on how he does when they get on the field. And I think he'll do a good job. I don't, it's hard with all the changes that are going on, and with Texas and Oklahoma coming into the league and expanded playoff to kind of, as far as a barometer for me to make a prediction right now, because it's going to be different this year than it's ever been with the expanded playoff. But if you go back and track it, Coach Bryant, of course, came in 1958 into a mess with Coach Whitworth not having won a game the year before. And, he was average his first year, and then Ray Perkins was average his first year, and Bill Curry was average his first year. And Coach Stallings, as you said, lost his first 3 games in 1990. Mike DeVos had a very poor year in 97. Franchione was okay, his first year, and Shula was average. And even Coach Saban, after starting 6-2 and beating Tennessee the same day that the textbook story came out, they didn't win another game until the bowl game. So the track record for first-year head coaches at Alabama has not been great. But at the same time, nobody's taken over a program with the caliber of talent that Coach DeBoer is taking over. But, none of us are naive. I mean, you can like him and be impressed by him and all that. But if they struggle on the field, it's going to be the fans will turn quickly.
Yeah. Well, having spent years in Iowa and South Dakota, walking 15 miles a day, pheasant hunting, I love those people up there in the Midwest. I'm not saying it because Matt's on. I love them. They are, and he's never going to change. He's never going to stop being, Greg McElroy said at the Touchdown Club in Memphis last week, he's giving people his phone number, and he goes, we told him, you got to stop doing that. But he'll never, that's the way people are up there. They are just genuinely, when they smile at you, it's real. It's not, hey, a head fake, what's up, man? I just, that's just the way people are up there. Matt, you're from Iowa, and man, I tell you what, speaking of Iowa, more tornadoes in the state of Iowa this year than any other state in America. I have been praying for the recovery of those people up there. I don't do that as a head fake. I do that in all the absolute 110% commitment. But, man, those are great people up there. And now he's coming down here, Kalen DeBoer, having driven the bus to his games. You know what it's like at that level. I think that makes him more approachable because he's like, man, I've been the guy checking the oil and looking under the hood. I've had my name on my shirt. I think that's why Chester R. Pulley is the most revered Marine in the United States Marine Corps. The first enlisted Marine ever to rise to the rank of commandant. Good night, Chesty, wherever you are. Matt, your comments. Man, I'm drinking too much coffee.
Rob, what's interesting, and I checked on my family up there the other night. Thank you. It was kind of rough, but just west of Des Moines got hit the worst.
Yeah.
But Gary, I'm interested in your take on this. I mean, what an incredible year you have. I'm talking about college football. You have the expanded playoff. You have, as you mentioned, Oklahoma and Texas now in the SEC. Coach Saban retires. You got Kalen DeBoer coming in. And then you had the 4 teams expanding into the Big Ten. I think it's just going to be a really intriguing college football year. And I'm just really – I'm probably more excited. I love change. I'm excited with the expansion. I'm also curious who's going to be the Group of 5 team that makes that, because I think our Memphis Tigers here with Seth Hennigan at quarterback. We had Silverfield on the show last week, Rob. There's a lot of excitement.
That was fun.
This, to be that team that could sneak up in the rankings possibly with a really good offseason with the transfer portal too. But you're right, Gary. I think Oklahoma and Texas, man, I think that's the biggest story to me leading into college football in the SEC is the impact that those really 2 historical football programs could have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like you said, Man, it's just so much change. It's going to be different in so many different ways. And in the SEC with 16 teams, but just playing 8 conference games, there's going to be so many teams that don't play each other. And Alabama traditionally has played Mississippi State every year. They won't play them. And of course, once they win into divisions, played Ole Miss every year. They won't play them. And seeing the impact that Texas and Oklahoma has and the teams that have to play them, it's a different situation than the teams that don't. And I think schedule has a lot to do this year in the SEC with who's got a really good shot to have a great year. And y'all being close to Ole Miss, I talked to Brett Brewer a lot. Good friend of mine. I used to work with him in the TV business, Billy Brewer's son. And you just get the impression that that Ole Miss is all in for this year. And with what Lane Kiffin has done and how he's put this team together, and Ole Miss people have stepped up and given him everything he's asked for. And Brett and I were talking about this the other day, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great for Ole Miss if they make the playoff. But if they don't, then there's going to be backlash because I think that the way that Ole Miss has gone about this and the way that Kiffin has gone about this with the portal, with the NIL, with the schedule that they have, it is truly playoff or bust. And if they make the playoff, I think the response, Ole Miss has a chance to really do something special because everybody's going to continue to be all in. But if they don't, after the way they've stepped up and gone into this situation, giving Kiffin everything he's asked for, if you don't make the playoff, buddy, there's going to be a backlash. It's going to be a huge backlash. And I think people are going to be like, no, we're not going to continue to do this. So that's one of the most interesting teams in the country for me to watch is Ole Miss. And I do think they'll be really good. And I do think they'll make the playoff. But boy, if they don't, it's going to be a backlash unlike we've probably ever seen there in Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah. And, Gary, I've been to a lot of games at Ole Miss. And I remember one time an Auburn-Ole Miss game, Auburn had won, and the Auburn team buses and the state troopers were pulling out by the Grove, and a bunch of Ole Miss fans were yelling, "Roll Tide, Roll Tide." And I just kind of looked at them and said, "When was the last time y'all beat Alabama?" And they all, "What do you mean?" I went, "Shut up." But they said, and one of my friends said, "Browne, y'all in Alabama are like the Spartans, just cannibals. Like, you got to win every game. And if you win, but then you got to win by enough points." And I said, "Yep." He goes, y'all expect to win every game. And blah, blah, blah. I said, "Yep." He goes, "Man, we're happy at 7-4, 8-3. I said, "Then you'll always be 7-4 or 8-3. When you change your mind," and everybody criticizes Alabama, you can't, it's not fair to criticize Alabama fans when you have won like Alabama has. And Gary, I've had so many awesome conversations with you. And, over the years, but I still remember in the driveway, it just kept me from going in to visit with my mother-in-law a little longer than but it was after the Tennessee-Alabama game last year. And you said, "Rob, the thing is, the only time Alabama's really lost under Nick Saban, it's been an epic deal."
Yeah.
The storming of the field there in Knoxville, October 15th of 2022. You can't credit when you win like that, man, it empowers you. It's not, but I think Ole Miss fans, and I got a lot of Ole Miss friends. This year, you're right, Billy Dog Brewer. I miss him. I mean, his son. I don't know Brett. You do, but Matt, you know what? And Brenden, the Ole Miss people. I'm gonna be around a bunch of them on the Spring River this weekend, trout fishing and kayaking and canoeing. They're going to be different now. They're not going to the game just to go to the Grove and hang out. They're going to be going to that game to win every game. And I think Kiffin, you're right. Everything is lined up, Matt and Gary. It's playoff or bust. And if they don't get it, who knows what will happen? They'll go, "Well, see, we'll never get there." They can't do that. You can't have a backup plan. Yeah. You got to expect to win, Matt.
Well, I'm with Gary. I think Ole Miss, I think they're going to the playoffs. And I also agree with Gary. If they don't, man, that's going to be problematic. But Jackson Dart's one of my favorite college football players. He's a quarterback that has a little swag. I'm going to give you a name from back in the 80s that he kind of reminds me of because of his charisma. He has a little Jim McMahon in him.
I knew it.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. That's my last quarterback that won a Super Bowl. I'm telling you, Jackson Dart is the X factor, and I'm not sure of any SEC returning quarterbacks if I'd want anyone over Jackson Dart. That's just me personally. And you can say, "Oh, what about Ewers from Texas, or even down the road?" I love Jackson Dart, and I love what Kiffin has done building that roster. He always has a tremendous running game. The line is always very stout. If you can run the football, guys, you can win. And I think I'm with Gary on Ole Miss. I really am.
Yeah. Gary, it's hard not to, the Ole Miss fans I know, they go to every game. And I think there's almost, you know what I'm saying? In the back of your mind, you're going, yeah, we want to be playoff or bust, but you can't be okay with losing. Gary, the mindset, like what Brett Brewer, he knows that program inside out. The talent's there and all. Lane Kiffin knows how to coach. They don't play Alabama this year, but they still got to play Georgia, and that ain't going to be easy. And they could end up playing Alabama in Atlanta. You should never take joy in not having to play the best. Personally, hey, like the good book says, iron sharpens iron. You don't get better by playing against inferior competition.
True point, but I think when you play in the SEC, there'll be enough iron to be sharpened on. So
there's plenty of iron there.
So they'll but I just think when Matt asked me about storylines, I just think that it is for me. It's Ole Miss, and I think we all agree. It sounds like that they've got the team. The last couple of years they've been close, but close isn't going to get it this year. And with the 12-team playoff, they would have made it last year if there had been a 12-team playoff. So it's all on the table for them. But I also think like I said, for Lane Kiffin, his credibility as a head coach to me is on the line here, because he has asked and he has laid out a plan, and he's asked the Ole Miss people, and he said, if this is how we do it and you respond, then we can be a team that has a chance to win the national championship. And now it's here. It's time for it to come to fruition. And I think that they will be in the playoff. But if they are not, that will be as big a disappointment, maybe outside of Tuscaloosa, because if Alabama doesn't make the playoff, regardless of the circumstances, there'll be a meltdown here of epic proportions. So, but it'll be fun to watch them. I'm also on board with Jackson Dart. I watched him here in Tuscaloosa last year up close, and boy, he took some shots in that game, and he competed to the end. And Ole Miss actually came back and had an opportunity there at the end to make a ball game out of it. And so they've got the talent. They've got a coach that I think is a brilliant play caller. They've got everybody, as Pat Dye used to talk about, Rob, and this. And he got this from Coach Bryant. You got to have everybody on the same page. In big-time college football, there's got to be symmetry. There's got to be not just a plan, but there's got to be everybody executing the plan and pulling in the same direction. If you've got a faction that's not on board, it's hard to win. And I think right now Ole Miss has got everything lined up to have a big season.
Yeah, and you know what? And this is a great conversation about that. And everybody does have to be singing from the same hymnal, to sound right in church. And that's the thing about Ole Miss is I've got so many Ole Miss friends that have suffered. They have suffered through a lot. Now, and lately, 2 of the last 3 years, last year they won 11 games. Now, for them, that's their most wins in school history. Under Nick Saban, after year 1 when they were 7-6, the next 16 years, the worst season was a 10-3 year in 2010. Everything else was 11-plus wins. Again, once your mind goes from here out to here, it never reverts back to its original size. If you've eaten at Folks Folly or Fleming's or Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and then someone says, hey, the steaks are just as good at CK's at 3 a.m. with all the other bar hoppers, it's not true. It's just not. And I think that Oklahoma and Texas coming in, they're also going to realize, okay, we were big deal out here. I mean, Oklahoma, 52 conference championships. Now we're going to have to compete for everything we get, Matt. You know that. And by the way, if Iowa ever gets an offensive guru to go with the defense that they play, I mean, how good could they be? They've only had 2 coaches in the last 43 years. As Tim Horton told us last Friday, Air Force has had 2 in the last 42 years. That's continuity up there. But, Matt, big picture college football, Gary, Brenden, the game, I'm so fired up. When do the magazine? I've been looking for the magazines, Gary. Have you seen any?
I think some of them are out now.
Which one did you see? I got to get them.
Well, I just saw a buddy of mine snapped a picture of one of the book stands and had several of them were out. So unless that was a picture from last year and he was just trying to fake everybody out, but so I haven't seen it for myself. That's not fair. But that's cruel. But I did see a picture of all the annuals. So I guess they're out in some of the places.
All right, Gary, got to ask you another question about Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, because I got to go after this one.
Yep. Gary does a great show Tuesday nights, 6:30 p.m. WVUA TV, Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr of Tider Insider. Watch this show, folks. It's 30 minutes, 22 minutes of content on Alabama. What are some stories, or what's a story that's developing in Tuscaloosa that you know about that the rest of the world better be paying attention to?
Oh, Lord.
The capstone. It's on the spot Thursday.
Really fast and go.
Well, that
and
was,
go.
my Lord.
And go.
I don't know that I've got anything.
Just make it up, dude. Just make it up. Make it up.
Doesn't know about. I'll just say, I don't know if this is a bold prediction or not. I think that next week when the deadline comes, I think Mark Sears is going to announce that he's returning to Alabama. That's just that's my sense. I don't think that he's going to. Now, I could be wrong. Again, this is just my prediction. I don't think he's going to get the guarantee that he needs to stay in the draft, meaning a team that's going to draft him high enough, to guarantee the money for him to make the roster. So I'm going to predict that Mark Sears comes back to Alabama for another year, but we'll see.
Gary, hey, thank you so much. How do people follow you?
On Twitter at Gary Harris _WVUA. My WVUA 23 Facebook page is Gary Harris WVUA 23, and then the website WVUA23.com is where all our content is for the TV station, and Tide109.com for the radio station. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, man. You bet. Love having Gary Harris on here. The beat reporter, you go down in Tuscaloosa, Rodney Orr, Gary Harris. I've got that Tide 100.9 app on my phone. I put it on back in like February or March of 2020 during the draconian pandemic lockdowns. And I listened to a lot of shows driving around in different markets, Matt. I don't know what the show is. I know WHO AM 1040 Des Moines, Iowa, Des Moines is. I love to listen to what other people around the country are saying. And this wasn't an argument or heated discussion today. I don't think anybody's disagreeing. Yeah. All I can say, if I were a university president, I would say I'm a capitalist, man, which means you can't deny anyone the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But I would like to see the money put into a trust. I just can't stand people that get money and just go buy Lamborghinis and flashy crap that depreciates as quickly as clothes and cars. Put it into the stock market and the bond market, invest it. Y'all ever heard of Patrick Willis, the linebacker that played at Ole Miss?
Sure have.
Leading tackler in the SEC in 2008, I think it was, had one of his arms in a cast in a club, led the SEC in tackles. He's from Williston, Tennessee, Brenden, was the number 23 ranked player in the state of Tennessee out of the top 25. Played at Ole Miss, okay? 50% of every paycheck he got in his NFL career, he was all pro 7 of 8 years with the 49ers. I was told this by a good source, he took 50% of every paycheck he got and bought tax-free municipal bonds. I love Patrick Willis. My friend Marcus Woodson, who played at Ole Miss from Moss Point, coached at Memphis, Fresno, Florida State. Now he's at Arkansas. Marcus said that's one of his best friends. I'm just saying that's all that's all I'm for. I hate to see people. I know how hard it is to make money, and you do, we all do. Put that money in trust, and then I don't care. I just don't like all that flashy, in-your-face crap. And by the way, Matt, has Deion Sanders yet made an in-home visit to visit a recruit yet? Or is it all about his 2 sons and Travis Hunter and him?
So you just gave me a lot of direction to go.
Rob,
Man.
I don't know. You took an extra this morning. I'm not sure if you're okay, but you should call your wife when we're done. Please
Call
call
an
your
Uber
wife.
driver, Rob.
I'm a little concerned about your heart rate right now, Rob. I
I'm
literally
excited.
have about 30 or 40 points there that you got him in there. We got about
Man.
3 minutes left of the show.
Okay, I'm gonna give you.
ADHD and OCD, man.
Ah, you wore me out on that one.
Hey, I saw two interesting stories yesterday about former college football athletes. Rob, I think financial literacy is working for some of our recent college grads. I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, who signed like a $250 million deal with the Eagles, he bought a 4-bedroom house for $215,000 in the Houston suburbs, still lives with his parents. And then now, I don't know what suburb. I'm not going to give his address out or anything. But then I saw that Antonio Browne from a different era made $88 million in his career, just filed Chapter 11. So I'm telling you, Rob, here's the thing. One of the benefits of NIL, I know you're talking about these cats that got the Lamborghinis. They're not at Rhodes College. I know you're talking about these cats. There are a lot
Carson
of guys,
Beck.
Patrick Willis, Jalen Hurts, that are managing their money well.
Yeah.
And I said this last week. I think a lot of the basketball guys are doing this too. Mark Sears is a great example. If he comes back, I don't know his NIL deal, but I'm sure it's pretty good. And if he has a decent NIL deal and he gets with the Rob Browne before he plays pro basketball or overseas or whatever, he's got a great future ahead of him. And I think that's a byproduct of all this stuff. Is there's more education going on. We don't hit everybody on this, Rob, but there's more education going on in the colleges about tax education and financial literacy. That's my hope.
I think don't you think, though, Matt, that we're going to see more? And I think this was the original idea about the collectives, because I talked to people before they were implied, before people were going to, that there was going to be a huge financial piece attached to that of learning, and then also a media piece attached to that. And so that you were going to be, more a part of this collective is what you worked for rather than, and the collective brought you the entity. So, and then there was podcasting and media control and all that kind of stuff. And I think that is important. We lost our way there because one goes hand in hand of being responsible. Yes.
Let me throw one at you. There's a collective at Auburn, and I talked to the guy that runs it. Each person that donates, you have 5 student athletes that you are in charge of mentoring.
Yeah.
And that's important. I love that. And you say you teach them how to dress, how to look people in the eye, how to shake hands, how to interview, how to be, well read. Look, bottom line is that they can do great things with that money. Kawhi Leonard signed that $97 million contract 7 or 8 years ago, still lived in an apartment and drove a 20-year-old Tahoe. Yeah. I love guys like that. I know people that are worth hundreds of millions that drive 10, 12, 15-year-old cars. You know why they do it? It makes them feel normal. Money will make you go crazy. It's like an old Roman proverb. The more you get, the more you want of it. It's like salt water. The more you drink of it, the more you want it. And it ain't good for you to drink salt water. Hey, look, awesome show. We are the greatest country in the history of the world. God bless America. Matt Dean, awesome. Brenden Martin. We'll see y'all tomorrow, Memorial Day weekend. Celebrate and remember why we do it. Out of here.
So important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot